Hey everyone, it's Mad Dad Hazo here, and I'm just going to do a video clip just to talk about my Vader helmet sculpt. And what you see in front of you now is the clay sculpt as it appears today. The whole project, it took me, or I started it back in August last year, 2018, and it's now October 2019. So that's how long it's sort of taken me to get really to this point. And quite a few stop starts on it as well. So I'll explain sort of how I've made it and what I'm sort of capturing in the sculpt versus the screen used, and what I sort of plan to do with it. Well, firstly, I guess here it is. Those of you sort of more familiar with Vader, it's going to be a New Hope version from the original trilogy. And you can just tell that immediately by the size of the triangle underneath the chin there. So in that version it was a lot smaller, as you see, and then it sort of got larger for Empire and Jedi when it came out. So the clay I'm using is a Chavant medium, sulfur-free clay, and the green mottle you can see through it is, when I originally started I used the Chavant hard clay, which is green, and I pretty much or very quickly just swapped that out for the medium stuff, which is a lot easier for me for a beginner. I have never sculpted anything in my life before I started this, so what you see here is a newbie's crack at having a go at a Vader sculpt, and I've tried to get it as accurate as I can given my level of skill and experience with clay, and I'm pretty happy with the results so far. I'm at a stage now where I want to mold it and start making fiberglass casts, and hopefully I can do that in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to work out how I can take a good consistently thick mold of it, and I've done it a couple of times, but I just want to try a couple of different techniques that I'll reveal probably later, at a later time when I've sort of thought about it a little bit more. Let me talk about the sculpt, if for all those Vader files who really kind of want to know the nitty-gritty of it. Okay, we'll start with I guess up here, the nose bridge. So little things I've tried to capture is sort of the contour of the nose bridge, and on each side how you see that nice little sort of that curve. I'll try to get my finger out so you can focus. There's a nice curve there which I try to capture on the nose bridge there. It sort of tends to go in a little bit here, sort of fall a little bit, a bit more there, so I tried to capture that, and you can see the other side. I'm sort of in the shade on this side, so I'll try and spin it around. So you can see again, yeah, it's kind of hard for a beginner to do. Sort of get that nice curvature there, and get the contour of the nose bridge right. A couple of things about the asymmetry of the actual screen use mask. So you might notice that there's a bit more distance between, say, the edge of the cheek here and the edge of the eye on this side. You see if I come around the front there, and whereas on this side it's a lot smaller. So I've tried to sort of pick that up as well in this sculpt. Sort of a well-known feature of the original masks is the asymmetry of them, and I don't know if you can see if I can get a good angle there with the cheek, the top of the cheek. Well, basically what happens is this side of Vader's cheek sort of curves down, sort of sweeps down as you go on the outside, and this one actually sort of it sweeps down, but then it sort of flicks back up. So I've tried to capture that as well. The mouth slants down this way, so there is a slant to it. It might not be obvious to a lot of you, but some of you might see that as well. The tubes on the side, so they're you can kind of tell that they were sort of sculpted freehand, and they're a little bit wonky in the original as well. So I've tried to sort of capture how the bottom tube sort of flows on both sides, and then how the top tube sort of, especially on this side of Vader's cheek, kind of curves down a little bit and then meets here, and then they sort of tend to join and flow a little bit sort of down towards this way. So trying to capture everything in here that I can, the way it is on that side, which is of course different from the way it is on this side. So there's a little bit of a sweep up on this tube around here, and it sort of tends to, from the looks of the light on photos, sort of the side sort of tends to flick up over here a bit more. And then, like the other side, it's a little straighter, but it does come down and then sort of tapers into meet and merge with the bottom one quite nicely. The neck has been the hardest part of this sculpt, believe it or not. The way I can sculpt the sort of the facial structure is I use a lot of photos. So say behind the model as I'm sculpting it, I'll have the TV and I'll have photos at various angles, and I'll try to match the sculpt to what I'm seeing on the screen. And it's kind of easier because you can sort of say, okay, well, how much does that stick out if I've got it at this angle compared to the photo, and you know, how much of the eye here do you see, and how does the chin sort of relate to that, and how does the neck sort of flow down after that. So I've used a lot of photo references, and I just kind of line the sculpt up with the TV screen, and then just try to sort of sculpt what I see compared to that. And so I'm relying on a lot of the geometry of the face and how the different shapes relate to the other parts of the face, and you know, what's seen and what's at certain angles and all of that. Easier on the facial structure, but it's much harder when you're doing the neck because you haven't got any other kind of shapes around to sort of relate to. And not only that, but I've found, at least for me, that necks are different on different molds, and you know, different sort of versions of, you know, when original screen molds were taken, they got different results at different times depending on the condition of the original cast. So I found the neck has been the most difficult part to really try and nail. And look, I really think I've got it to a degree, but I know that it's kind of really a compromise of all of the different types of necks I've really seen. And there's not much more I can do because I don't have a full scale, like, you know, screen accurate sort of replica helmet on me. I'm just sculpting this from scratch. There's nothing underneath, there's no solid form. The only thing inside that helmet is a piece of PVC tubing wrapped in foil and black electrical tape, and you can probably see the signs of that behind here. Oh, and cardboard as well. So there's actually no form on that clay at all, apart from what you see there. There's no other mask. So it's been hard to do it by scratch and then get the neck and all that right. I'm really close to wanting to mould it, so I'm just doing tweaks and see if I can sort of settle on what I'm finally happy with. There's a lot of asymmetry with the shape of the face. I've sort of always found it kind of tends to flow down that way with the neck, or the illusion of it doing that. So I tried to capture that as well. Little things like, you know, the nose and all that, the curvature of the nose. I've tried the best I can. But to give you a comparison of how big this mask is, I do have a Ruby's Supreme, which I've modded, so it looks different from what you might be used to seeing. But if I put it next to it, that's how big, put them at the same sort of level distance from the camera, that's how big my mask is compared to a Ruby Supreme. So you can see it's actually a fair bit smaller than that. And I actually haven't used the Rubies as a reference really at all on it in the final result. So this is just a play mask I've got modded. Myself and my son have fun with it, Halloween and that. But yeah, you can see how much smaller, if I can get that, yeah, mine is. So my mask is really good for shorter people and kids as well. My 12-year-old son can wear it quite comfortably. And I can tell you that because I already have taken a cast of the mask, excuse me, back in around March, and as it was at the time. That is my clay sculpt that you see on the right of it. But as it was around March, I took a cast, I really cleaned it up, and my son's been tripping in that helmet since probably about June, I think. Since actually last month was the first time he's taken it out. It's been ready for a couple of months, but the first time because I'm in the 501st. So yeah, that's the mask that you see, clay sculpt, but I took a cast of it already. There's quite a few shortcomings in this mask. The biggest being the neck. It doesn't taper towards the back anywhere near as much as it needs to, but like I said, this was a work in progress back then, so I've significantly worked on the mask, especially the neck. There you go, you can see that taper on the neck much more now. And so that should sort of meet your chest a lot easier, where Ash's mask now, or this cast here, kind of comes out from the chest a fair bit. So this should pretty much fix that. If I go back to this mask, just to show you, I'll just rip if I can do it one-handed, it might fall, never mind. Yeah, so that's it there. Now the neck is also different because I have cut it down. There, I've cut it down at the bottom there for my son, so that it will fit him fairly comfortably. And the silver mesh behind the mouth there is not the accurate stuff. I do want to get some accurate stuff, but that's actually just some scrap wall, a corner sort of stuff that you put on when you're plastering, that I had lying around. So yeah, that is that clay mask as it was back in around March this year. You can see the cheeks are quite different too. They're more sunken. I did take the rubies as a bit of inspiration when I did that, but now I've actually, as you can see, flattened it out a lot more as well. I think that's more consistent with what they really should be. Yeah, there's strapping behind it. Excuse me. So it's pretty much like the movie with the strap on top, which would meet with the two along the bottom there. So that's what you put your head into. Yeah, that's it so far. I'm really happy with the grey. That's an auto paint. It's a Nissan. I think it's a Duplicate Colour brand, and it's a Nissan metallic grey. I'll try and post that up in the reference somewhere in my comments. The helmet is also a clay sculpt of mine. Let me bring that down. So that's, I've sculpted from clay as well. Tricky, but not as tricky as the neck around the helmet, around the mask. The way I did that was I made a very rough EVA foam helmet. It wasn't sort of really the right shape, but what I was going to do, once I got the EVA foam, I put some fiberglass over it, and then I could use the fiberglass mould, which I'd taken off the EVA helmet, as an armature, and I built the clay onto that. So, that's the helmet. I'll show you actually the master cast of the helmet, because I'll be using a master cast of my clay helmet for this. It needs a fair amount of modification. As you can see, the brow area is not a New Hope style, so that will need to be changed. And I'm also you can see the paper there where I'm starting to sort of flesh out the shape I will need. That's some paper there, and I'm not sure, I might fill it out with either clay or I might do a Bondo mix and sand it back. I think I might do that actually. So the mask itself also needs to be worked on for a New Hope version. A few little tweaks to it. The inside. So this is a fiberglass, and there you go, Kid Vader. Did that back in July. A fiberglass and Bondo version, whereas the helmet that my son troops in now is purely fiberglass. Oh no, sorry, it is a Bondo fiberglass resin mix, so Rondo, and then with fiberglass matting on the inside. My proper casts that I plan to do will be, I'm not sure yet how I'll do it. The helmet, I'd like to try and keep it as fiberglass if I can. Say a gel coat and then the fiberglass, much like how the originals were, I guess. But yeah, that's it. So stay tuned as I take the molds. Look, I would like to make these available to people. As you saw earlier, they're smaller size masks. I can comfortably wear it as well. And I'm 5'11" or 181 centimeters, so I can still wear this mask. Well, that one I can, and perhaps I'll show in a next clip that you can wear it, even being 5'11". However, it's proportionally, it's quite good for shorter troopers. or sort of kids, teenagers. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it, and I will post more about this mask and the process from here on and how I've made it. And also, I'm going to start doing webisodes of how I've made a Kid Vader suit as well, because I'm actually going to be making a new one from scratch pretty much. So I'll film that and document it so you can all enjoy watching that. Okay, bye.